What is up, people? I am Hannah, and you are listening to Let's Talk People, a podcast about my messy musings as a trained counselor. So far, I've been releasing episodes on Mondays, but I'm considering dropping 2 a week now because, I don't know, it's fun for me. I like talking to you, and if I tell you and say it out loud, then I have to be somewhat accountable, right? We can be accountability buddies. But also, before I dip into this episode, I'm working on being more direct, and one thing I want to be more direct about is my Instagram. I've been wimping out and telling you about it, but just not directly because it's scary for me, and also because I wanted you to find me, but I didn't want to tell you to find me, which sounds a lot like an argument with my husband. So no more of that. I would love if you would take out your phone and find and follow me on Instagram. My handle is HANNN_AH. That's HANNN_AH. Find me, follow me, DM me. Let's be friends. Okay, deep breath. I am ready to talk about safe words now. Are you? I have a list of topics that I want to talk about on this podcast, and I was going through my list, deciding on a topic for today. I asked my husband what he thought, and as soon as I got to this topic, to safe words, it was so clear that this is what I needed to talk about. I just had so much charge about this topic. I'm not a very direct person. I'm working on it, but I have a hard time being direct. Being direct scares me. I want you to like me. I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't want to hurt your feelings or misstep. And because of that, in a single conversation, there's not just you or me. There's like all these lines. It's like this grid. In my head, I picture it like a room full of those laser beams that activate when you turn on your alarm system, and I'm just like tiptoeing and stepping over so I don't set any of them off. And I do that instead of just saying what I want to say. It's sort of like taking what I want to say and trying to squeeze it into what I think you want to hear. And when I do that, I end up spewing out a ton of safe words. So I'll say words like maybe, or sometimes, or kind of, I guess so, or sure, or maybe even the opposite, like I'm not sure. There's so much deliberation and consideration. I mean, you could even hear it in my voice, couldn't you? Like how agreeable and appropriate and like kind of, hesitant those words sounded, like so non-committal, like so delicate. And not that that's a bad thing, but if you say a safe word instead of the thing you want to say, it kind of is a bad thing. I mean, I use different safe words with different people. So if I want to impress you, you can be sure that I'm going to be like super agreeable. Everything I say is going to be bookended by the maybes and the sort ofs and the kind ofs. And I'll throw in some like really engaged nods and sure and actually, you know what? I even have like safe sentences. Do you have this? I forget even words. I will couch an entire opinion or perspective with a whole like safe sentence, something soft and malleable. It's like it just gives me an out. I'll say like, oh, but that's just my take, or if you don't think that makes sense, you can scrap it, or maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. These like entire sentences that are this like escape route to what I'm saying. And I'm trying to do this less, to safeguard myself less, because in the process of trying to keep myself safe with these words and these gestures here and there, it hurts. I hurt, and I think the relationship hurts. And it doesn't just hurt, it kind of makes things go stale. I stop being able to know what I really think or want because I'm just painting so much over it. And I think you feel it too when I use those safe words. Like I'm not willing to kind of take the risk and step towards and in the conversation. And emotions are a funny thing. When we hold back on one, it's not like, okay, we just hold back on enthusiasm about this particular topic, but everything else is fine. No, like when you hold back on anger, for example, you hold back on everything. Like everything gets a bit dampened. And no, that's not an encouragement to be angry and show your anger necessarily, but it's that if you don't let yourself feel that full spectrum of what you actually do, you kind of plug yourself from feeling any of them. So maybe you can't be like selective with your emotions, and it starts out small, like this inch by inch. You don't say this, you don't have a big opinion there, you agree to do something you don't really want to do, you say yes to going somewhere that you don't really want to go. It starts out small, and it kind of squashes and suffocates you and stifles is maybe a better word on the way. But the thing that I remember, and with all of this, and I hope you remember this too, is that being direct doesn't mean being mean or being pushy. I mean, we all know that, but it's that when we're not direct, I think it's actually like mean to me, like to ourselves. And that real sneaky kind of mean, the kind of mean that we just like learn to tolerate. We tolerate it all the time. We don't even notice it. I mean, for a long time I didn't notice what shows up now as this like tiny flinch or clench in my stomach when I agree to something I don't really agree to, or when I don't say something I want to say, or I like pretend, oh yeah, and go along with everything when I really have like a huge opinion in the other direction, because I was just so focused on feeling safe. But the thing about feeling safe is it just puts you in the defensive all the time, right? Like you always have your guard up, your arms up, and you get used to always protecting, and that's okay. But I kind of like the risk. There's a bit of a fire to it, isn't there? Do you ever watch those underdog movies? I love those. I'm just such a sucker for when someone's like put down by society and everyone says they're doing something bad or wrong, and then they just like rise up, or they persist, or they do something against all odds. And I think there's a real like root reason that we love those movies. It's because it tugs on that part of you. Not really the part that just wants to be a rebel or be different. That's more surface. But it's because we know that feeling of like sticking to ourselves. The solidity, the clarity of like sticking with you. I know it sounds kind of cheesy, but like of being your own safe place, really, rather than looking for it out there. Because when I use safe words, what I'm really doing is I'm constantly creating like safe place after safe place after safe place. So for one, it's like I think I need to use a safe word because I'm in an unsafe place, right? That there's some kind of risk or something I have to lose. And then in that moment, there is this like tiny second of choice, maybe even like a fraction of a second, right? You can risk it or not. And it's okay not to risk it. It's okay to use a safe word, to not use a safe word. I'm going to use a safe word like in the next 5 minutes, I'm sure. It's just that I think that we're so often blind to the risks or the non-risks that we take or we don't take. We just are so used to hurting ourselves all the time. Like it's just normal. We get used to it and we have so much tolerance to it. But it's actually tiring. I'm tired. And I think another way of phrasing it, and I'm stealing this from Liz Gilbert, her book, The Big Magic, which is that she says in there that like being safe, and she was talking more about fear, which is very much tied in with safety, but it's boring. And I love that idea because I think it's so true. it's smart to be safe, and it's probably a good idea and appropriate, and everybody will agree with you, and your argument is like super solid. But when can you just let your hair down? When do you just get to be you? Just say the thing, have like the full-blown animated opinion that you want to have, and put a stake in the ground. I don't want to go see that movie, and it may be a tiny thing, but it isn't to you, and just to see what happens. I'm trying to create more and more of these pockets with myself, like this negotiation with myself. We might think that this is something that happens on like the bigger stage of our life, but it is these little moments, these little moments that with friends, with family, that we kind of have these tiny decisions, how we define safety, how we even define risk. And yes, like with family or friends is one thing, work and safety in work is another, but either way, if you are safeguarding yourself, maybe just one time we don't, maybe we can do that together, like keep stepping towards the scary thing, take these little risks and see what happens. What do you think? That's what I'm moving towards this week. And follow me on Instagram for reminders. Thanks for listening, guys. Have a great week, and I will see you next time.